Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Iron Bark Podcast. I am your host, Epion, and today we're going to talk about a very lovely subject, as you could probably tell from the title. We're going to discuss Billie Eilish. That's right, I'm stylish. Baggy t-shirt, black Glock, Billie Eilish. I think that's how the song goes. Anyway, she recently made comments that billionaires aren't donating enough money. They should just give it away, which is a really easy sentiment to get behind and agree with. I don't necessarily disagree with it. That's not what I'm criticizing here, by the way. But it's an easy thing to say. It's a really safe thing to say because a lot of people aren't going to disagree with you because most people aren't billionaires and people without want to have. So it's a sort of a simple idea. It's like a concept. Like, hey, donate more money. You guys make too much money. She's also a multimillionaire. She has a lot more money than a lot of other people. The same criticism she gives billionaires, the average Joes like us could do the exact same thing. Billie Eilish, you're not giving enough money. You need to donate more money. And here is sort of the greenwashing hypocrisy of it all. Most of you who listen to this podcast are pretty analytical. You're intelligent people. I have discussions with you people on here. I've talked to you in group chats. It's probably obvious to you. But for some of you who might be just tuning in for the first time, we're going to go down what a charitable donation is. Now, it sounds good on paper. You're like, oh, I'm donating to charity, which surface level, I agree, it's a good thing. But why do most rich people make charitable donations? Why do they do it? The reason most wealthy or rich people make charitable donations is because it's a tax break. If you don't make a charitable donation, you have to pay more in taxes. If you make a charitable donation, that charitable donation will be less than what you would have to pay in taxes overall. And if you can show on your taxes that you did it, they cut you a break. Therefore, netting you more profit, more money in your pocket. All rich people do this. All billionaires do this. A lot of them don't gloat about what they donate because they know it's just a way to kind of keep more money in their pocket and pay less taxes. It's literally what every accountant will do for you once you have enough money. But it's like, hey, I'm going to save you some money here and there. Like, oh, why don't you start a nonprofit, this and that, Okay, now instead of spending 10 million in taxes this year, guess what? You're only spending 7. And guess what? 2 of that went to charity. And it's like, oh, shit, thanks for saving me a ton of money. That's charity in a nutshell. Now, if you really, really want to be selfless and charitable, you donate money to something you can't claim on your taxes. You go down to sick kids hospital. You go room to room. What can I do for you or this family? What are you struggling with right now? You go to a cancer ward. Young dying mothers, fathers, whoever, aunts, uncles, what's your biggest worry before you die? What are you concerned about? Oh, your 20-year-old son, you don't know if he's going to have enough money to make it all the way through university. You know what? I got you. I'll pay for that. That would be charitable, real money that you couldn't claim on your tax form at the end of the year to get like a tax deduction, and it would be genuinely charitable. When you see donations go to charity, automatically it's a tax write-off. Most people would know this. So it's kind of like surface level, like, it's like, oh, that's nice of you, but like you have to donate to someone. So it's kind of like, is it really that generous? Is it really that nice? You're basically forced to at this point. And this is where like the hypocrisy comes in, because I'm pretty sure, I don't know 100%, but from what I read, now she might have gone above and beyond what she normally has to donate to avoid, that tax bonus thing. Maybe she did that. but maybe her funds could have been spent better elsewhere. So you have the nonprofits, right? They take money. The employees and CEOs of said charity get paid first. Then other operating costs, expansions, this and that. And then 10% or less of what you actually donate goes to the purpose in need or the intended recipients. So if you're donating $1 million, only 10% of that is going to where you actually think it's going to go. It's just the cheapest option for these people, and this is what they resort to, and this is what it's a weird thing. Like I said, a lot of billionaires do donate money, except they can't gloat and flaunt about it because in their circles it's kind of like, well, we all know it's just for tax breaks. And the same thing for millionaires, like, well, we just know it's for tax breaks. So it's to kind of just keep it hush hush because they know the criticism from their peers will just be like, why are you gloating about doing your taxes? That's what it sounds like, really. So I think she has like this startup, or it's like it's like a charity or a nonprofit or something like that. It's called the Changemaker program, and it collabs with this thing called Reverb. I think that's a nonprofit charity. So their core mission is to empower millions of music fans and the music industry to create real environmental and social change. So what do they provide? Eco-friendly tours, plant-based food at their concerts for their employees and stuff. I guess the people performing, like Billie Eilish. So basically, these are just the people catering her concerts to make them more eco-friendly, quote unquote. Is that really a meaningful donation? Like, you're not going to get carbon neutral. And I'm not saying end concerts. By the way, I'll give you my opinion on climate change going after this, and we're going to make a lot of sense of it. You have thousands of people traveling by vehicle to get to the concert. You have and then usually the star themselves is traveling by jet plane, which will produce more CO2 emissions than any of us will in our entire lifetime, going from major city to major city. And guess what? Like having recyclable cups at the water dispenser at your concert backstage isn't going to make it carbon neutral. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do in that sense. It's pretending. They're pretending to be green, eco-friendly. They're pretending this is helping the environment. Like, it's not helping the environment. It really isn't. It's minuscule on such a scale that you can consider it not helping. Hold on. I took a screenshot of what else this thing says it does. It's quite entertaining, actually. It's worth a listen. Come on, where's my screenshots here? Okay. What do we got here? Okay. I'm going to need to take a sip of tea before I get into this. Okay, are you ready for this? Eco-friendly tours works with artists like Billie Eilish, Maroon 5, Jack Johnson, David Matthews Band, and Fish to make tours greener. Implements zero waste initiatives, reusable water stations, composting and recycling. Okay, so you're putting garbages and disgusting hand washing machines. Thank you. Okay. You have to have garbages and stuff anyway, most of the time by law. Carbon offsetting, funding renewable energy and reforestation. Kind of, I don't know. It doesn't go into detail. Plant-based food options at venues. This one aggravates me because there's like a big thing against animals like cows, chickens, like they're ruining the environment. No, they're not ruining the environment. North America was covered in wild bison and buffalo, and there was plains grizzlies, and there was plains wolves. Now most of them are gone, and the amount of cows on ranches and farms don't even begin to come close to the number that used to exist in the wild. regenerative farming is good for the environment. Regenerative ranching is good for the environment too. It replicates the natural processes the landscape would otherwise have with an abundance of animals. Maybe a lot of, I don't know, like factory farming, factory ranching isn't, you could get me there. Like, it's probably not good. They exhaust the soil, all that stuff. It's not good. But there's like carbon sinks and all this stuff with regenerative farming. It like keeps it good. Like, look into it. Maybe I got a screenshot on regenerative farming. I can't remember. No, but it's good. Trust me, bros. Put it into AI. Is regenerative farming good for the environment? It'll say yes, especially if it's grok. What do we got here? Okay, what else does it say? Elimination of single-use plastics. Now, I agree, single-use plastics need to go. Not necessarily for the environment, though. Having them in the water is bad, and bad for the ocean, bad for the fish, bad for the birds. Microplastics in human is toxic, and we should try to go back to glass. We need to bring back the glass industry. So that's better, but I don't know. Like, the thing is, like, a lot of these paper straws and stuff, they're lined with like a fine coating of plastic, so the microplastic problem still isn't being resolved. It's a catchy one, right? Like, it's a silly one. Same with like a hot paper cup. Like, if you put hot paper, or if you put hot water into like a paper cup that didn't have like a plastic lining, it would just fucking disintegrate and fall apart in your hand. So we're not really solving the microplastic problem by switching to cardboards covered in plastic. That's another big farce where I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, you got rid of use of single-use plastics. What'd you replace them with? Plastic coated stuff. It's the same shit, different pile. It's silly. It's dumb. We need to bring back glass and metal. What else does it say? Fan action villages, interactive booths at concerts where fans learn about climate issues. Take action, e.g., sign petitions, contact lawmakers, donate to local nonprofits. The problem is, as you can see with this, a lot of misguided climate stuff. So plant-based food options. So they're not supporting regenerative farmers and regenerative farming. That's what they should be doing, not just plant-based stuff. Because if you realize how much water went to make an avocado or a soybean, you know what I mean? Like, you'd realize a lot of plant-based stuff isn't necessarily carbon friendly or good for the environment. So that the fan action stuff, hit and miss, mostly miss. What else does it say? Donate to local nonprofits. Could be good. Local stuff is usually better than not, because they actually do boots on the ground stuff where they actually plant trees. But like any charity, even a nonprofit has people getting paid because it's their job, but they have these really lavish $200,000, $500,000 yearly salaries, and it's like, come on, bro. Grant making and philanthropy distributes generated donations to environmental and social justice groups. This is where it can also be bad, because you have a lot of social justice groups. Now, this is just what AI says. I don't know if this is actually what they do. You have to look into it for yourself. So this is all just potentially what they do, so I don't get sued. Distributes tour-generated donations to environmental and social justice groups. Not all of these groups are good, and some of these groups are vandals. Maybe they don't support them, I don't know, but there are social justice groups that spray paint things. They waste food. They'll cover things in orange paint, which isn't good for the environment. They'll drive to like far off locations. That's another like big carbon imprint, and it's sort of like a self-defeating social justice group. And it's not something I get behind either, because I don't like public mischief or vandalism or destruction of culturally significant statues or art. I don't support that at all. Let's see. Artist campaigns helps musicians launch climate-focused initiatives. Billie Eilish's overheated climate events. So, as you can see, She's basically donating to herself. It's a self-interest. It's like, oh, my concerts will now be greener so people can criticize me less. I'm doing better for the environment. Being a rock star, a musician, and going on like worldwide tours is probably the least eco-friendly thing possible, unless you're like riding a horse to each event. Like it's so asininely like mind-numbing to like the normie who's like taking the bus, riding his bike, using electric scooters around the city, and it's just like being lectured by these multimillionaires who are taking jet planes and going to concerts and singing songs, and it's just like, you want me to eat plant-based foods, you haven't done the research into regenerative farming, you're making me suck on a dissolving straw, which is killing my insides because now it's even more microplastics dissolving into my body. But it's good for the environment. No, it's not. It's just marketed that way. Now, with all due respect, maybe she made these comments because she got paid to, and she's just like, fuck it. Like, maybe the whole thing is just like a paid program where it's just kind of like, hey, Billie, we're going to give you $50 million and donate to your favorite charity if you just say these words. And it's all just like, I don't know, the typical Hollywood stuff where it's not real. It's just like, I got a paycheck, so I'm going to say it. I don't give a fuck. That could be it. She might not actually care about any of this. It's just kind of like who her agents and stuff said, this is the best deal you got. Let's roll with it. And you're just like, fuck it, okay. And at least that is a little bit more respectable because it's kind of just like the rigmarole of the business. And that might be what it is. So maybe cut her some slack, but at the same time, it's kind of like, man, these people in charge of these campaigns need to like, people aren't dumb anymore. Like, we have analytical thinking. Not a lot of people, but most people. I don't even know anymore. Probably not. Yeah. So that's sort of like that little bit of business. But now I want to dive into the climate science. I see these people making a big deal out of like the climate, like, oh, it's the number one charity you should donate to. You should pay the most attention to this. It's the most important. I don't believe so. I believe people are the most important. Sick kids hospitals, cancer wards, that type of stuff. People really struggling. People like having like kids with like rare illnesses that need to pay like a ton of money so they can get treatment and be saved. Like, that is where the core good of humanity, if you really wanted to make an individual difference, should go. I asked AI, now this is like a silly thing to say, but I asked AI, I said, is there any public examples of Billie Eilish ever planting a tree? There is 0 public examples of Billie Eilish ever planting a tree that I'm aware of, or that AI is aware of, that I could find. If someone really gave 2 shits about the environment, would they really be doing all these corporate sponsorship ad campaigns and all these like green initiatives? Or would they literally just plant at least 1 tree? They would probably plant at least 1 tree. I've planted 1 tree. Planting trees kind of sucks. It's a lot of fucking hard work and time. It's dirty. You can throw your back out. But it's the biggest difference you can make, especially if that area is preserved for a long time. So what we're going to do is, I'm just going to get it all out here. Okay. I'm going to get it all out here. We're going to go on a climate tirade. This is a climate tirade. Now, if you're not aware of this, I don't support climate alarmism. I really don't. I don't agree with it. The Western world is responsible for 2% of all CO2 emissions. So even if we went to 0, it would still be just as high. It's negligible what we do already. And to go any lower, almost, it's destructive to our own civilization. But you can look that up yourself. You don't have to take my advice for it. That's an actual stat, but people are just kind of like, all right. So let's take a look. These are all things you can Google yourself or throw into AI. Do you, the listener, the climate conscious, environmental supporting person who loves animals just like I do, know what the current level of Earth's CO2 in the atmosphere is in parts per million? No, you don't, because you don't really give a fuck, but you like to pretend to. But guess this is what it is: 425.26 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere. So what we're going to go through now is the accepted science, which you can all Google and throw into AI and find out to reconfirm all these things. This is going to be long, boring, and winded, but it's going to be educational as fuck, and it's going to be eye-opening for a lot of you that disagree with me. We're going to go through each geological time period, one by one, and we're going to compare what the CO2 emission in the atmosphere was during that time period. Okay, number 1, Neogene. This was 23 to 2.6 million years ago. Let's take a guess at what the CO2 parts per million was. It was somewhere between, and it wasn't, stable for all those millions of years, 280 to 400. So it was lower than it is now. So this is where a lot of you big climate alarmists will be like, see, it's getting hotter. Hold on, there is more. The Paleogene. This happened 66 to 23 million years ago. And its CO2 parts per million was, guess what it was? 500 to 1500. And you know what animals existed back then? Early primates, rodents, early whales, early horses. And back in the geological time period before that, we had apes, early hominins, elephants, saber-toothed cats. So all these geological time periods sustained life with lungs, complex terrestrial organisms, some even larger than ourselves. And this went up to 1500. Remember, we're at 425 parts per million. Then we get into the Cretaceous period. This is where we start seeing things like tyrannosaurs or ceratops and those types of dinosaurs. Okay, this happened 145 million years ago to 66 million years ago. And do you know what the CO2 parts per million in the atmosphere was back then? It ranged from 500 to 2,000. It got as bad as 2,000 parts per million CO2 and still sustained animals with lungs that breathe oxygen in our atmosphere and lived very long, much longer than humans have been on this planet. The Jurassic period. This happened 201 to 145 million years ago. The CO2 parts per million, 1,000 to 2,500. Animals, sauropods, brachiosaurs, so like those long necks, theropods, some early birds, some small mammals, and lizards. Once again, terrestrial animals, complex living organisms, breathing oxygen, living, sustaining life, being able to become really fucking big because the oxygen was so good. Carbon was what? So our carbon's 425, theirs was 2,500. So 2,000 more parts per million. They're living and thriving. Triassic. This happened 252 to 201 million years ago. The CO2 levels in the atmosphere in parts per million back then were between 1,000. They range from 1,000 to 3,000. And animals we had back then, early dinosaurs like pterosaurs and early mammal relatives. Okay. We have gone so far back in time. What have we, more than 3 times, 4 times our CO2 in the atmosphere? Then we go to the Permian time period, which happened 299 to 252 million years ago. And the CO2, closer to today, ranged between 200 and 400. And the animals back then were mammal-like reptiles. Dimetrodon was one of them. You've probably seen that in museums a few times because it's like one of the early significant ones. And then there's the Carboniferous time period, which was 359 to 299 million years ago. CO2 levels range between 300 to 500, which is sort of where we are. And back then they had giant insects. Okay. We're going to keep going. We're going so far fucking back. Devonian time period. This was 419 to 359 million years ago. The CO2 level in the atmosphere and on Earth was between 2,000 to 4,000 parts per million. It ranged between there. The animals, early tetrapods, amphibians, insects like mites. Then we have the Silurian time period, which was 443 million years, between 443 million years to 419 million years. The CO2 level in the atmosphere at that time was somewhere between 3,000 and 4,500 parts per million. Animals include early millipedes, scorpions, and spider-like arachnids. Some things that are like spider-like arachnids. So, long-winded, highly educational. All those things had way, way more parts per million, and Earth was way more than capable of sustaining life. Since the Silurian time period, geological time period, this is the earliest example, a time period of complex life, terrestrial animals on land. So things that we could moderately similarly compare to us. So since then, going back to that time period, to the Silurian, between then and now, of those years, okay, 291 million of those years between then and now were without ice caps. The Earth had no ice caps, okay? Now you're going to say, well, how many of those years were with ice caps? And the answer to that is 152 million years with ice caps. So you have 291 without, 152 with. So for most of Earth's history, supporting terrestrial life on the like terrestrial means like walking on the land of complex organisms. So we're not even counting going back to like amoebas and stuff that was in the ocean. We didn't go back that far. But if we did, the number for without ice caps would be even higher. For most of Earth's life, it has been without ice caps, which may suggest, though it's probably a balance back and forth between the two, that Earth is not really supposed to have them. When we have ice caps, it's typically the byproduct of a very large event, normally like a catastrophe. There are 3 major ice ages that have created the ice caps. 3 major events. The Andine Saharan. So what caused this one? Decreased atmospheric CO2 levels due to enhanced silicate weathering from, I don't even know. Possibly from, or it could have been, what's it called? Taconogorgy, I don't know. I'm going to just say fucking land movement, possibly due to early land plant colonization. And this is like a pretty good example. Imagine all of a sudden plants come into business over a few million years. They just colonize all the surface area, most of it, right? When you look outside, you see tons of plants. Well, that would have a huge carbon, or that would decrease all the carbon in the atmosphere, because we know plants and trees breathe in carbon and they produce oxygen. So when you decrease the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere rapidly, you get cooling. And this is actually what Earth is more at risk of. And I'm going to get into that a bit later. But we're going to go through all the ice periods here. There's only 2 more. We got the Karoo Ice Age, which was positioning of the supercontinent over the South Pole, coupled with massive carbon burials of coal-forming swamps and forests. So we lost a bunch of places that produced coal. They got covered up. No more coal in the atmosphere, less CO2. It gets colder. Late Cenozoic Ice Age, tectonic uplift of mountain ranges, increased chemical weathering. This also caused CO2 drawdown from the sky, opening ocean gateways, isolating Antarctica, and strengthening ocean currents. all those things contributed differently into reducing the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, causing the Earth to get colder. So, I want you to be a judge of this. Are we at more at risk at global warming or global cooling? We are currently sitting at 425 parts per million. We know we can go pretty high up and sustain life on the planet Earth far beyond that. We can't sustain life on Earth if we go far below that. We are closer in the number of dying from being not enough carbon than we are from being too much carbon. The critical drop is generally below 300 parts per million. We're at 425. We will trigger another ice age if it gets too low and it goes to 300 parts per million. The glacial ice sheets, the glaciers that covered most of North America, will continue to build and build and build and crush everything underneath it. No soil will be able to be grown food on, or plants. Animals will not be able to survive on it. We also have thresholds cited between to be 240 to 80 parts per million. Like, that's where it really hits like a threshold point where it's like, okay, like this is rapid glaciation now. That is more of a threat. We can survive when it's hot. We have people living in all kinds of climate. Now, if it got super hot and CO2 went up super high, you would probably have people not being able to live at the equators. You would probably have people moving further north and those areas becoming much more habitable and not being as cold. Obviously, this happens over a very large time period, so it gives lots of time for migration and people to get in and go. Decide where they live is too hot, decide where they're living is too cold, and find better homes. And it happens at such a slow rate that it's never in a single time within our lifetime. So that's my gripe. That's my gripe. I think that's my gripe with climate. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. We can get a lot more carbon in the atmosphere and be fine. If we get a little bit less, we're not fine. So it's a lot of climate alarmism. It preys on people's fears, right? And people being afraid of the weather, climate, all that stuff is genetically ingrained in us because we depended so much on it for survival when we were, our ancient ancestors, that it's like a irrational fear. It's like being afraid of spiders, even though you've never been bit by one, or a snake. It's just embedded in your DNA because someone a long time ago died that way. Same thing with the weather. People were sacrificed to it and stuff like that. You have like this genetic memory somewhere buried deep down where it's like, you got to be afraid of the weather. That's all it is. That's all it is. You see it throughout the ages with acid rain, the hole in the ozone layer. It goes on and on. Like, you can probably think of 1,000 different things. You're at home right now. You've probably got like these energy friendly light bulbs. You got the energy cost saving laundry detergent. You got all the energy eco setting appliances. And guess what? Your bills stay the same. It doesn't make a difference. We're not making any differences here. It's all just like, this is why Trump calls it the big green scam, because it's like this fake industry baited around the fear of existence. No, like the fear of the planet no longer existing and like you dying and everyone. But we still have millionaires buying lakefront or oceanfront property. The insurance companies are still insuring those properties. Why is everyone like quietly going along with the lie instead of just being like, yeah, it's actually bullshit? It's like, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Don't get me wrong. I think pollution is bad. We shouldn't be polluting if we don't have to be. But I also don't think all this other stuff, like what they've turned that into, like, let's not pollute. We can all agree with. Yeah, let's do it cleaner. Let's do it better. But then all of a sudden you're like, let me sell you this. Let me tax you on this. Let me sell you this and that. Let me restrict you from doing this and that and take away this from you. No, 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 no. No, no, no. That's not what this is. You're not going to fucking guilt me by saying don't litter and don't pollute and then tell me I can't drive my car. That's not how this works. That's not what people believe in. It's just so easy to like, what do they call it? Like it's suicidal empathy. It's like, oh, you're such a good person. I can just manipulate you to get whatever the fuck I want out of you by taking advantage of your better morals. Anyway, folks, that's my spiel. That's my spiel. I hope maybe it convinced some of you to look into a few more things yourself. I don't know. Should we tax millionaires more, billionaires more? Maybe not. The government never seems to do anything, no matter what side you cheer for. They kind of just give themselves raises. Elon's a billionaire. He makes a lot of donations. I think his money's better off in his pocket. Maybe not every billionaire's pocket, but look at all the ventures he started. He's got eco-friendly cars, but I mean, people debate electric cars if they're truly eco-friendly because of the rare earth minerals and that type of thing in the electrical grid and how electricity is still mostly generated from coal factory plants or nuclear power. It has to be generated. It's not generated from solar farms for the most part, not really. So, I mean, he's got the electric cars, he's got SpaceX, he wants to build moon colonies, Mars colonies, he wants to expand human consciousness to the cosmos. These are things I like. The government's not interested in doing that. He's interested in doing that. Maybe the money is better off in his pocket for doing that. The Boring Company to resolve traffic issues as human population grows. We're going to need that. That sounds like a good idea. I'm for that. What else does he do? I don't know. He's building AI. Hopefully that has medical breakthroughs. He's got that Neuralink for helping paraplegics have like a new swing at life. These are all good medical things. I mean, we could speculate till we're blue in the face about how they could backfire, how they're kind of bad, but I like my money, not my money. I like other people's money in their hands because I think if they have a dream, they should pursue it. Now, there's some billionaires that their dream is just making more money. They don't really have any passion projects. They're kind of boring. They're not doing a whole lot of useful stuff with it. So people are like, take their money away and give it to me. But those people won't do anything useful with it either. These are cool projects. I wish we had more big, grandiose, pie in the sky visions and dreams, like building robots and global internet for people that live in rural places. So people who get lost in the wilderness can find a way out through a Starlink satellite. These are all like amazing ideas that didn't exist 20 years ago. Maybe they were ideas, but they weren't really happening. Now they're happening. And they wouldn't be if that billionaire didn't have money, which they earned. Not me, not you. Anyway, Billie Eilish should make her concerts free. Because she's a multimillionaire, she can afford it. You see how silly it sounds? Anyway, until next time, my environmental friends, ta-ta for now.